Hello everyone, welcome back to another interesting topic of in networking. So we are going to cover the communication protocols. So in this we are going to dive into what are the different protocols that we have, because all of these protocols we are going to leverage in upcoming videos, in upcoming lectures in lot more detail. So this is an overview of possible protocols and most of them you may be already aware of. So let's quickly go through them so that we have a fundamental understanding of how communication can happen between two systems. So there will be some rules, some regulations, some guideline which will ensure that how two systems should communicate. There should be some fundamental architecture in order to help that. So all of these we are going to cover as a part of the protocol. So let's get started. The first one first, which is called STTP. What is this STTP? You already know, which is in order to communicate between two systems, we use some mother tongue. One of the mother tongue basically we use is a STTP. So you can consider if you are having a like highway, that highway is a infrastructure on which if you wanted to go from one place to the other place, there are certain signs, certain tolls, certain directions which are given in order to make you reach at the right place. So that kind of communication which is happening, the way it is communicated, it is telling, okay, what need to be done, how need to be done, how data will be transferred from one place to the other place. Understanding that structure of the data, request and the response, that is defined by STTP. So hypertext protocol. Okay, so in this case, we will try to understand few more things, which is if we see TCP connection. So what it does, we will quickly understand how it works, where it is basically used. We'll quickly understand. So first it makes a TCP connection. So it makes a connection to the server saying that, boss, I am going to bring some data. Are you ready? So once that connection is established, then what it does, it basically makes a request and response. This connection suffice for one single request. So what I meant by every new request will make a new TCP connection and it will make a request and it will get the data, right? As simple as. So in short, if you have to understand, so consider example, whenever you get a delivery from the Amazon, what you get? If it is a big delivery, you get a call. Oh, I'm going to basically come to your place. Are you available? If you are available, I will come and basically make a request and get the response. Those kind of things basically are done over here. TCP, like STTP, is basically used for all of these things which are like web browsing. Basically anything that you interact, you wanted to browse the page, you wanted to do any browsing kind of activity, you wanted to load some content like your images and whatnot, all of these communication basically with the server happens on the protocol which is called STTP. Now we will get understanding of what is this TCP in more detail. What is this TCP basically we are using, saying that we have a TCP connection done. So it's like now the infrastructure, the bridge, the way, the path on which this communication or the data transfer will happen is established. So that is what we will be talking more in detail. Just hold on. Now, the second is STTP 3, or we call it quick. This is something which is used nowadays. A lot of companies have started using. One of them is YouTube. Google uses it at a very large scale. You can always go check out YouTube basically and you will see this is heavily used inside YouTube. So I can show you that STTP 3 protocol also, although we are going to dive in some of the other videos. What it does, we have to understand. It establishes the UDP connection. Now, what is this UDP connection? How this is helpful? Maybe before we jump into this UDP, let me take you to TCP. Let's understand that. We'll understand UDP, then we'll come to like again back understanding where it is being used. So let's quickly understand these two concepts, because I'm going to use this concept again and again at multiple places. First, what we call is TCP connection. In TCP connection, what happens? It's a three-way request, three handshake kind of thing basically happens. The first one, which is send as an synchronization, saying that, boss, I am going to send you some request. Are you available? Are you ready? What it says, it sent the acknowledgement. Yes, I am available. I will give you a sequence number which you have to use in order to do the next kind of communication that will come. Okay, it says that I acknowledge and I have accepted the number which you have given. Why this number is important? Try to understand. This number is important because TCP says if I am sending you data in large packet and if one of the packet is missing, I will ensure I will resend that packet. Hear this out. Again, very important. TCP guarantees that any of the packet is not going to be lost in the time of like transferring from one server to the other server, to the client to the server. It guarantees that. So hence it is reliable in terms of none of your packet is going to be dropped. So we use it a lot of time in web browsing, as we say, as an email protocol. Now, in the other way, we have to understand, as I said, TCP you can also consider as an road architecture, the infra that is created, the highways, the bridges that you have, the path on which this data, the transport, the vehicle basically goes on, that path, that infrastructure is something which is TCP. The things are guaranteed. The things which you start, the car which starts from one way will actually end up going to the other end. That is something which is guaranteed. No one is going to have an accident and something is going to be damaged. Nothing such thing happens in case of the TCP. Now, let's talk about UDP. UDP is like, boss, my intent is to make fastest thing. Like, consider example, you have highways where cars and all those vehicles goes at a very high speed, right? Now, it is not guaranteed that if you start from one end of the highway, you either will end up going to the other end, or there will be some accident, or some of the vehicle or some of the data is going to be lost. Exactly what happens in UDP. It says that my intent is to make things fast. So I will ensure without making this handshake kind of thing, in the first request itself, I'm going to start sending the data and accepting the response back. So even some of the packet are lost, I'm not responsible, right? So we use a lot in a voice over call, like in WhatsApp, we do the voice calls and whatnot. Video conferencing we use this concept a lot. We use this UDP protocol a lot. Now, some of the other fundamental things which I wanted to highlight. Let's understand this TCP and UDP from one more perspective, so that you will remember your whole life. The example basically over here is, consider you have a courier boy. Now the courier boy basically, when it comes, it basically knock says, are you there? It accepts the OTP and basically goes back sending a confirmation. I have delivered this parcel 100%. The other way, there can be a delivery boy which comes to your gate and puts the packet outside your door and does not do any knock. It's like, I have sent the parcel. If you receive or not, I don't care. If someone steal it or it goes somewhere or it is lost, I'm not responsible. But I will ensure I am going to make this delivery happen fast as much as possible. That is what basically happens in case of UDP. I hope now you are much familiar with these two protocols. Coming back to our initial discussion, now it makes sense. Like when we say HTTP, it use like TCP connection, which is reliable, more reliable. None of the data packet is going to be lost. When we say quick, it says that I am super duper fast. I'm not going to like do this TCP connection. I'm going to do the UDP connection, where in single request, I'm all set to send the data and basically start accepting the data. And that is what it says. It has lot more other benefit basically I wanted to talk about. Although again, we are going to dive somewhere in this particular detail. One, how it is faster. One, the headers basically it has. Maybe I can note it down for some of the references. The headers basically. So it does header compression. Header compression. The second thing basically, it's a faster. So basically I can say that this is much faster in this case. It handles few more things. It says basically improve performance, I can say, which is again faster. Improve performance. I can say improve better network congestion. Like if so much data has to be transferred, how that is going to happen, right? So network congestion. So this is what you should remember. Now there are a few more things basically you can remember about HTTP. 3 is obviously you should remember that this is built on the UDP. You should never ever forget about that. So which is very important. Perfect. So I hope we got around that. So let's try to understand few more things, which is what is this, how this HTTPS basically works. In case of HTTPS, almost everything remains the same. It's just that it is more secure. I have covered this in more detail explicitly in a HTTPS, but at a high level, you have to understand what it does. Along with the TCP, it actually does one more call or connection, which is SSL and TLS, right? Transport layer security. So what it does, it says that I have set up the TCP connection, but I'm not sure if someone can steal this packet and read the packet in between. So is there any better way? So it said that, okay, there is a better way. We can do one thing. So I will share you some public key. You use that public key on the client, encrypt that data and send that data back. So what I'm going to do, So I'm going to do this again, one handshake where basically a public key is shared, a session key is shared, you will get a encrypted data. Now there are two things happening. So data is being encrypted from both the end. When server is sending the data, it encrypt the data and send it back. Client, you can say decrypt that and try to understand. Similarly, when client send the data, the server receives that and it basically decrypt the data and understand what is there. Anyone who reads the packet in between will not get anything. So you cannot steal data in between the network layer even if you get some of the packet. So it makes things very difficult, hard in order to steal data when you are working on HTTPS. Although, as I said, things are going to be covered in more detail. It's just an overview so that you get your fundamental understanding. Again, we use in web browsing, anywhere you see the HTTPS in the URL basically in the starting, that is what we call. WebSocket, you already know, for any live chat, for live data streaming, lot of analytics dashboard, the Google chat, the comments, basically the likes that you see on the YouTube, all of these basically are using the WebSocket. Many of these basically, right? So although I have covered all of these communication techniques also in the upcoming chapters, in upcoming modules, basically you will get in whole much detail. You don't have to worry about. It's just that few things again to remember. One, it uses an HTTP upgrade thing. What does it mean? It says that, boss, first connection I will do a HTTP. Once I do HTTP, I will upgrade that connection to WebSocket, which is WS. Using something called 101 status code, it internally does something interesting happens. So internally it does. Once that is done, now it says we are on a WebSocket connection. I am not on a HTTP connection. We are on a WebSocket connection. Once you are in WebSocket connection, you are saying I am a full duplex. What does it mean? Whenever you want on a single live connection, whenever client want to send data, can send. Whenever server wanted to send data, you can send. There is no such data, which is no new connections are basically built, which were happening in case of HTTP, HTTP3 or HTTPS, whatever you have talked about. This WebSocket is a single long lasting in order to do this duplex communication. And we talked about. Now, TCP, UDP, we have already talked about. SMTP, I would like to say, the mails that you get, the Gmail, Outlook, any kind of mail basically that you are getting, those are actually delivered using some SMTP protocol via SMTP server. So first request goes to some SMTP server. It knows, okay, I know what's the address, what's the destination, how do I need to deliver it to the requesting server, you can say receiver. And this is where it is sent. In this case, it's not like you're requesting and you are getting a response. No, you're saying, boss, I wanted to send a mail to someone. It can be one person, it can be multiple people. It's like, okay, I'm ready to send that information to the people because I know how to target using the SMTP protocol. So you're all set to send your mails. Perfect. Now let's talk about this FTP, file transfer protocol. What it basically says, it says, boss, there is big files that need to be transferred from one system to the another system. I can make multiple strategies, like I can use HTTP, stream the data, convert into binary data, do this and that. But in order to transfer this heavy files, there is a special protocol, which is file transfer, which says that transferring this file are very easy and can be huge files, can be transferred very easily. Now we use this for upload and download of the file. And one of the place where I can show you this being used a lot, people who have used some FileZilla kind of applications where we upload the files from your local to some system or transferring files from one system to the other system. So this file transfer protocol is used a lot. People who are using to transfer there's some data from one dev machine to prod machine or some testing machine, this FTP protocol is used a lot in order to send this data from one place to other place. Now, a quick overview, what I wanted to help you to understand. In all of these cases, you should remember a couple of things. One, what are the different protocols, way to communicate between the server? Second, what is the process, how this communication basically happen? In case some way it says that three-way communication, some it says I uses TCP as a connection, some says I uses UDP as a connection, some says, oh, I need some like SSL and TLS kind of thing. Some says, oh, I first start with HTTP and then convert into WebSocket using some upgrade kind of thing. Some says, okay, I basically do some acknowledgement kind of thing so that I can maintain a sequence so that every subsequent packets are transferred based on the sequence number so that none of the packets are basically lost. Some says, I don't care about reliability, I am the fastest over here, which is UDP, right? And then some says, oh, I'm only designed to in order to handle the mails, how it getting transferred, and you should know what are the different applications of those things, right? And definitely like file transfer, in order to do this transfer of the data, big file transfer of the data in a very easy format between two systems. With that, so we have just started, guys. So this was a quick overview. We are going to dive into using multiple of these protocol in upcoming videos, where we will get into REST APIs, building REST APIs, having your own server, leveraging HTTP, maybe HTTPS somewhere. We may be using like under the hood TCP, UDP are 100% used. WebSocket we are going to use. Almost all the protocol that you see, one way or the other way, we are going to leverage in the upcoming videos. So stay tuned, keep watching, and build your own notes. And especially the full forms and whatnot, just Google it out, create a full form for each one of them. Sometimes in interviews, people do ask those full forms. So I think that's not a big deal. Understanding this process is something which is very, very important. Once you know it, you are going to rock your upcoming interviews. With that, see you in the next video. Bye-bye.